Welcome to the Piston Fanatic. I'm your host, Dave Dalton, and I'm excited to share my passion and perspective of our Detroit Pistons as we go on this fantastic voyage together. I've been a diehard Piston fan since the days of Dave Bing and Bob Lanier. I've also been the varsity basketball coach of a very successful program in northern Michigan. Well, I just want to thank each one of you, all my listeners. It has been a gift from God to me to have this podcast. I was so thankful that I got to be a teacher and a coach and be part of kids' lives. But my other thing I would wanted to be was the announcer for the Detroit Pistons. And while I'm not that, this is the next best thing. And to have this podcast has been very special to me. I did think the Pistons, and I still think the Pistons are going to turn it around. I think we have a lot of really good young players. And I'm just hoping, obviously, we need some good decisions made by the front office and the coaching staff, but we just got to stay positive. And, we all love the Pistons through thick and thin, but tonight they lost their 26th in a row. They tied for the most consecutive losses in a regular season in NBA history, 126 to 115 to the Brooklyn Nets. And during the game, they were chanting some things that I didn't quite hear what they were saying, but I think they were derogatory chants towards our Pistons, and I hope that we can turn around on December 26th, the day after Christmas, and smack them in the face and beat them. So let's get talking about the game. And, each game is kind of a microcosm of our team. So when I talk about the game, I'm really also talking about our team and our players and where we're going. And I was optimistic. I felt like a little bit energized by Tom Gores and his, I did a podcast earlier today. If you haven't listened to it, it talks about Tom Gores speaking out. And he did go over a lot of things. And there's even more things that I didn't cover that he said, but basically he was just saying he's still optimistic. He thinks we got a lot of really good young players. He says there's a lot of things that have been done wrong and changes are going to be made. And they've looked at everything, and he's talked to Monty. And I really even think that the starting lineup tonight was some of the effect of Gores talking to Monty, because we started Cade, Ivey, and Asar. So three of our core four players, and obviously Duran's out, so he couldn't have started. And we started Stu and Bojan, which I think is the right decision to have shooters, even though Bojan has unfortunately struggled. So I really think that you look at our season, and when your team is not very good, and especially when you don't have any depth, and we obviously don't, and we're going to talk about rim protection, but it's kind of like Murphy's Law tonight was like anything that can go wrong will go wrong. And I'm glad I'm not Murphy, but big part of it was no rim protection. They just drove into the basket or got the ball down low, and they just had nothing to worry about. They had nobody to worry about blocking a shot. Stu and Bagley just were just non-factors. And a lot of times it seemed like Stu, we do drop coverage, and he just keeps on dropping back and dropping back. And then the fact that he's only 6'8" and can't jump, they just had nothing to worry about. So they outscored us 62 to 42 points in the paint, but it was worse than that. And they got fouled. We fouled them at the rim countless times where they didn't make the shot, but they made 2 free throws. So that was a big factor. We need Duran back. And I know one of my listeners had mentioned before, I don't know what, a few podcasts ago, that we need a rim protector, and so as a backup center. So we just need that. Our second unit we ran out there was just, they can't guard anybody, and there were times, and they can't get rebounds. We have Bagley and Harris and Burks and Knox and Sasser. That lineup was on the court for us, and they couldn't get a rebound. And so, it's just really hard. Harris and Burks and even Bojan, they're bad athletes, and they can't get a rebound. Sasser's one of the smaller players in the NBA, and Marvin, he gets rebounds some games, and he actually rebounded. His numbers wasn't bad for playing only 15 minutes tonight, but he just wasn't as active as he was in some of the other games. So that went wrong. The points in the paint, and we just, like I said, we got killed. But then our bench got killed. So they came in, and it was like 20-6 run against our bench. And he played 5 bench guys together, and we've talked about it. And I know Gore's talked about the rotation to him, and I just still think they just have to stagger. They have to stagger, and they have to leave Cade or Ivey or Bogey in the game all the time. So one time they did put Bogey in the game with the bench, but then that meant we had Bogey and Harris and a bunch of guys that couldn't rebound and couldn't guard anybody all on the court at the same time, and that is a problem. A lot of our guys that can shoot can't play defense or rebound, and a lot of our guys that can rebound and play defense can't shoot, and so that's the conundrum that Monty has, and he still doesn't make things any better. But um, just is really hard because Cade starts the game and he's passing the ball pretty good, but then he gets his third foul. He gets his third foul with 8 minutes left in the second quarter, over 8 minutes left. So he's on the bench for the last 8 minutes, and we hung in there surprisingly some, but he only played 11 minutes in the first half, and that just is killer for us. He just does so much for our team, and then he got his fourth foul right at the beginning of the third quarter, and so Monty made the right decision to leave him in the game, and if he fouled out, he fouled out. But he didn't get fouled the rest of the game. So had four fouls that early. But he has to be smarter and better. But he just got those fouls, and then it just kind of it puts him on his heels even on offense, I think. But um, another thing that happened, and I've seen for the first part of the game, they were just playing sagging way off him, just like they do with Asar and Stu and all of our guys that can't shoot. And Killian, they just play way off him, and he wasn't shooting, and he shot again. He shot great at this end of last year, and at the first more than part of this year, he was shooting great from three, over 40%, and he just lost his confidence. I think all the stuff that's going on with him being jerked around on by Monty has affected his psyche. But the one positive thing that happened tonight, he did come back and make some threes in the second half, and so he's been passing them up every game, not just tonight. And he's just been forced in the drive, which he can. He got to the rim or got fouled an awful lot, even though he's just putting his head down and just going 100 miles an hour right through them, and they just can't do anything about it. So, but it's just in their head, and then it was in Cade's head. So Cade started missing threes, and tonight he was only 1 for 5 on threes, but he passed up. They sagged way off him, and that just limits you on offense. He's just got to shoot it when he gets it up, when he arcs it high. He makes a really good percentage, and he's had really good streaks this year. Or actually, he's shot the three overall good, except then he's had the streaks that he's been bad. He's been terrible, and so that just drags down his 3-point percentage. But they just weren't guarding him twice tonight. He's wide open for three, right on the top. Nobody's near him, and instead he passes. And he passed one time. He passes to the wing, and the pass gets picked off, and because the players aren't even playing him, and they get the steal, and they go down the other end, and Cade fouls him, and that got him his his fourth foul. And so those things are just he's got to get better at. Again, his turnovers have been way down this year since the first part of the year. And tonight he only had 2 turnovers, which it seemed to me like he had more. I don't know if the stats are always right, but I know he did that twice what I was talking about, where they sagged way off him and gave him the wide open three, and he passed it to someone that wasn't open, and they got a steal. So anyway, that was a problem tonight with Cade not having him playing, and then he ended up playing most of the whole second half until the last few minutes when the outcome was decided, and so then he came out in the last couple minutes. But anyway, Stu, like I said, he drops in drop coverage, and so even when he drops, the guy's got these little 8-foot jumpers that are wide open, and they switch. Stu switches, but he keeps on dropping, and they're right in the paint, and he just keeps on backing off more, and they're like completely uncontested. And it's not his fault. Again, he's not tall, and I do not know why James Wiseman. I never heard a report that he couldn't play. He had been playing really well. Monty praised him, and he did not see the court tonight. So maybe he was sick, maybe he was injured. There was no report of it, but we were getting killed. We were getting killed on the boards and second chance points, and we were getting killed in the paint. And the last game where he didn't play very much, Wiseman didn't play that much. He was contesting shots, and they only had him down for 1 block, but he was jumping and trying to swat shots, and he at least gave a little bit of resistance. Today there was no resistance at the basket. They could just drive in at will, and I'm sure that next Tuesday they're going to do the same thing. I just wanted to say this again. We talked about the last game when we played the Jazz and they beat us, and people were talking about how great Kelly Olynyk was, and he was the difference, big, huge difference in the game. And I like Kelly, and I felt bad for Kelly in Detroit because things did not go good for him. It just didn't work out. I mean, when he played with Houston before we signed him, he had a great year. Of course, they were terrible and they were tanking, so he got lots of usage and stuff. But he shot really good percentages. But here's what happened. So Kelly Olynyk this year for Utah is shooting 55% from the floor, 42% on threes, and 89% on free throws. So when he was in Detroit, he shot 45% on from the floor, which is 10 points less than he's doing for Utah. He shot 34% in Detroit on threes, and he's shooting 42% on threes for Utah, and he shot 77% on free throws, and he's shooting 89% for Utah. So that he was in and out of the lineup. He had COVID that year, but he just played much better. And I guess when you don't play with as good of players, you don't play as well. So for whatever reason. Then lots of you want Jeremy Grant back, and I will just say this: his contract at his age is too long and too much money, in my opinion, and he's not in our timeline. So otherwise, his type of player we need. But this is something else that we need to remember. People don't forget. Jeremy Grant was good for Detroit. He was okay, but he wasn't great. He wasn't near as great as he's been for Portland. He's been way better for Portland, and he shot 46% he's shooting for Portland, 42% on threes, 77% on free throws. In his 2 years at Detroit, they were almost identical. His stats were almost identical. He only shot 42% from the floor, only 35% on threes, and 84% on free throws. So he did shoot better on free throws in Detroit, but everything else, his numbers were significantly lower. So that's, I guess, the Piston curse. The other thing that Jeremy did in Detroit was he tried to be a player that he wasn't, and I don't think he has to do that. He has all these guys that create shots for him. That's, again, the challenge that Cade has. Nobody creates shots, nobody creates space, but he has that in Portland. So he gets to do more and have more open shots and doesn't have to force things. In Detroit, he would just catch the ball and try to dribble, and then force a pull-up jumper with somebody all over him, and it didn't work out very well. He never moved the ball to the open guys, and so yeah, I did. He's we need it. We need a wing. We need a wing that's his size and that could shoot the three like he's shooting in Portland. But to give him that much money at his age now, and I just think that would be a hard move because he's signed for like 5 years after this year, I think. And anyway, Asar played 30 minutes tonight. I think that's part of Gore's talking to Monty and telling him that these young guys are our future, and that's what the number one priority is. Same priority that the Piston Fanatic has been saying every podcast. The priority is the core four, and so I'm glad that that message was sent, and hopefully it was delivered, and that Monty doesn't change. But he was only 2 for 7 on shooting. He had some tough luck, but here we are. If we're going to go down, we need to have him be on the court. We're terrible at defense. We're terrible at rebounding, and he is really good at those two things. And so, he's 20 years old, and he's our future. And so we just got to give him the chance. I think overall he's going to do better than the other guys that we put out there. You can say in theory Harris can shoot, or just like in theory you could say Livers could shoot, and they haven't shot, and they can't guard anybody, and they don't get rebounds, and so that's a problem. But he was 1 for 3 on 2 for 7 from the field, 1 for 3 on threes, 2 for 3 from the line, 5 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, 0 turnovers, and 7 points. So that's, if he can go out there and play and have 0 turnovers and score 7 points and get 5 or 6 or 7 rebounds and play good man-to-man defense, at least one player on the position. He also gets loose balls. He gets offensive rebounds, second chance points, which are huge, and just even balls that just are bouncing loose, rebounds that kick out. He is so much faster to the ball than everybody else in the NBA that he ends up getting a lot of those balls, and those make a difference. So Stu, I said, his defense, he's limited, and it's just tough when you don't have anybody on your team that can protect the rim, and it's just the other team just has a layup line going to the basket, and so, but he did have an unbelievable offensive game. 33 minutes, 8 for 9, 4 for 5 on threes, and here's the thing about him again. It's not a criticism. It's just what's happening out there. So he's good to have on the court. If he could be out there with a shot blocker, that would be even better. But he is so far wide open. So in the NBA, they say that an open three is considered a shot where you're open by like 6 feet. That's how they determine open threes, and they have stats for that. Stu's open threes are 10 feet. So he passes them up if he's 6 feet open. He did it tonight. He made 4 out of 5, and he still caught it, and he was open by 6 feet, and he didn't even look at the basket, and he was on fire. And so he's shooting the ball. His stroke looked really good tonight, but it's just it's just tough because he's not a scorer. And so anyway, he had 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and that's huge. I mean, and with 0 turnovers, and usually he has quite a few turnovers usually, but he had 1 steal, 20 points. What a game. And we lost. We can't afford to lose games like that when he plays that well. So Bogey, he struggled early, but he kind of fought back. He's out there fighting, and our guys are fighting. You can say whatever you want. I know James Edwards said after the Utah game that, oh yeah, we're losing all these hustle stats. They got more points off second chance points and points off turnovers, and those are hustle stats. Our guys are hustling. Not every time. They certainly, when they went on the run at the end of this game, they certainly got down, and they didn't go after the ball as hard. But I'll tell you, we got way down, and we fought back, and we cut it. We trailed by only 2 points with 6 minutes left in the third quarter. That was amazing, and everything was going wrong. Cade had those fouls. Everything went wrong, and we still cut it to 2. And then what happens? They go on a 26-7 run, and they're up by 18. So you think our team that's lost 25 games in a row would quit. But no, we didn't quit. With 7 minutes and 40 seconds left, we cut it to 12. And then the Nets get this play where a guy makes a 3, and Stu contests the 3, but he steps under him and gets called for a foul. So he makes the 3, gets a 4-point play. They made the 3-point shot, made the free throw. Then they get the ball out of bounds because it's a flagrant foul. And then we foul them on. Ivey fouls them way far away from the basket, and they get 2 free throws and a 6-point possession. So we're within 12, and all of a sudden it's 18 again. We still cut it to 10 with 4 minutes to go. And I mean, that's a gutsy thing when everything has gone wrong. Everything has gone wrong for your team, and you're just struggling, and you've lost all these games in a row, and you still fight. But I'm saying the same thing about Bogey. Bogey's out there forcing the drive. His shot wasn't falling. He started picking it up later. He started shooting a little bit better, but he was 5 for 13 only, and he's such a great shooter. And he's only 2 for 7 on threes, 7 for 9 on free throws. And early in the first half, or sometime I think it was in the first half, he missed 2 in a row. So he made all the rest of those. But he's even missed some free throws this year, which he's such a good free throw shooter. But he had 8 rebounds, and he hasn't been rebounding that well, and 4 assists, and he hasn't been passing that well. He had 2 steals, so he was active. You could just see he's so limited. He's not fast. He can't jump, but he still played as hard as he could. 4 turnovers, so that was really hurtful. And his turnovers just looked just as bad as some of Cade's, that were tonight. But he had 19 points. So if he would have even had that good a game against Utah, we probably would have won that game. Cade, 33 minutes, so 11 minutes in the first half and 22 minutes in the second half. So he played the whole second half until the last 2 minutes. And he was 9 for 20. Again, he started out shooting really well, and then things got going bad, and then he starts forcing things because he thinks he has to put the team on his back. So he ended up 9 for 20, still almost 50%. 1 for 5 on threes, though. So that really drags. If he didn't shoot those threes, his percentage would be even better. 3 for 4 on free throws, 3 rebounds, 6 assists, only 2 turnovers, and 22 points and 4 fouls. So he still had a good game, and everything went wrong for him, and you could tell he was discouraged, but he kept on fighting through it. Ivey got to play 35 minutes tonight, and again, the first part of the game, until he just just attacks the rim. He just gets the ball and he says, "I'm driving the ball to the basket, and there's nothing you can do about it." Well, sometimes there was something they could do about it. Sometimes he lost the ball. One time he got knocked down, and then he laying on the ground, he kicked it to Asar, and Asar went in and dunked it. But he had again 35 points, 6 for 11, and only 11 shots he took, and he had 23 points. So 3 for 6 on threes. That was huge for him. He made at least his last two because he was struggling. They weren't even guarding him. 8 for 10 on free throws because he just, like I said, they could see him coming and they could think, don't foul that guy, but they still fouled him. So he had 6 rebounds. He's not that big. He had 7 assists, 2 blocks. I swear he is our leading shot blocker in the last 5 or 6 games, and he's been getting like 2 blocks in a lot of games. And Asar used to get those blocks, but Asar's not getting so many anymore. But I think Asar will if he keeps on getting to play 30 minutes. But he had 3 turnovers, which isn't great, but it isn't bad for playing 35 minutes and doing all the things that he did. But he had 23 points. He was +6, so he was the only player on our team that was plus. Bogey was neutral, 0, and so he had a great game. And hopefully this continues, that Monty gains trust in him and plays him more, and he keeps on going the rest of the season. So that's a big thing, for me. It's discouraging, It's no fun to see your team lose. It's no fun to see everything's going wrong and Cade gets his fouls and everything. We just get pounded in the paint, and it just gets hard to watch at times. But I still get excited about Ivey, and like I said, even on a tough night for Cade, he still had 22 points and 6 assists. Bagley, 15 minutes only, and I thought he played more than that. But so most of the time we're out there, our biggest guy is 6'8" and can't jump, and so that's why we struggle. And again, I still need to find out what happened to Weissman. So he had 5 rebounds in 15 minutes and 5 points. So Harris played 7 minutes. They gave him a nice round of applause. He played at Brooklyn with the Nets on some of their really good teams, and he has the franchise record for 3-pointers. Again, he's one of the best 3-point shooters in the history of the NBA, but he has not been for the Pistons, and he struggles to guard anybody and to get a rebound. He's an older guy that was never athletic to begin with and had 2 major ankle surgeries, so that was tough. Another thing, little silver lining might be Knox. So Knox might not be great, but Knox is better than having Harris out there and better than having Livers out there, is the way Livers has played this year. So he played 23 minutes. He was 5 for 6, 3 for 3 on threes, and 1 for 1 on free throws. He only got 1 rebound, which we need him to rebound more, because that lineup got killed with him on the court. But it's not just his fault. But we just had all Bagley, Harris, Burks, and Sasser. And so again, that's on Monty. He's got to find a way not to put those 5 guys on the court together. You're not going to get a rebound, and you're not going to be able to protect the rim, and you're not even going to be able to guard anybody. So, but here's the thing: he had 14 points on only 6 shots, and that's incredible. But one thing I will say, I talk about this sometimes: plus and minus does tell you something, and it is accurate a lot of times. But it does, if you're with the bench unit, no matter how good you are, and you can even play well, you're going to be in the negative. So he did that incredible shooting percentage. Again, 14 points on 6 shots, and he was -11. So that wasn't on him. But Burks continues to struggle, 2 for 8, 1 for 5 on threes, 1 rebound. And George Blaha, every time he shoots a 3, he says it's a line drive. Well, Burks gets no arc on his shot. The thing is, I talked to John Beeline before when he was there. He looked at Burks' shot. He knew Burks' shot needed to have more arc on it, but he went back and looked at his percentages, and he always shot really well. And last year, he shot almost 40% on threes the whole year, and he was just consistent. And now he's not, but you have more room for error when you have more arc. But I know some guys can't change their shot. Obviously, I'm sure he knows it's flat, but he can't guard anybody, and he can't get a rebound. And so Burks is just really limited. You watch him. Watch how hard it is for him to move out there. But he's trying. I guarantee you, I can tell how hard he's trying. Sasser, I want Sasser to play. I don't blame Monty for limiting his minutes tonight, but he needs to give him a little bit of run every game and see if he's got it going, because he's had good games and bad games. And so that's what Vinnie Johnson used to do for the Pistons. Vinnie was the microwave. Everybody thought he was always hot. Vinnie was a 42% shooter. It seemed like he never missed. Well, in the games that he was playing well and shooting well, Chuck Daly would leave him in there and he would play more. And games where he was off, Chuck kind of figured out, well, we're just going to play Isaiah and Dumars more tonight and not play him very much. And so, but he wasn't always hot. But, Chuck was masterful at, you know, figuring out when he was and when he wasn't, and so limiting his playing time when he wasn't and maximizing it when he was. So Sasser had 2 turnovers in 6 minutes, which she just looked overmatched out there. They just he every pass was just a struggle for him, and he had a hard time guarding people. But we shot 49%, they shot 52, 43% for threes on us, and 42% for them. Of course, we don't usually shoot threes that good, so again, but we wouldn't have shot that well on threes if it wasn't for Stu and Knox. So, Stu and Knox were 7 for 8 on 3-point shots, those two guys, and the rest of the team was just mediocre. So, we had missed 7 free throws, which is too many for an NBA team to miss, but if it would have been closer, it would have been worse. But 13 turnovers we had, and excuse me, they had more turnovers than we did. And so we still lost the game. We scored more points off turnovers than they did. We outscored them 22-8 on points off turnovers tonight. So that's usually not that way ever. But we did, like I said, we got killed in points in the paint. We got only rebounded by 2, but it seemed worse than that. So anyway, once again, please subscribe, and thank you for being a gift for me. And I just appreciate all of you, and I hope that you have a great time with your family during Christmas. And I'm hoping we come back on the 26th and can win a game. And God bless you and Merry Christmas. Thank you.